blockchain, ProtoShares, or BitShares PTS, as it became known. We're now coming up on the 5th anniversary of that, just 6 weeks away from today. And some of us old-timers who remember the 5th of November, that very first time, got together and said, what are we going to do to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the very first block ever laid down in this ecosystem? Paul Martello here, you know him as Once Upon a Time, and Michael Taggart, who you probably know as From Zero to Hero, and Dan Notstein, who you probably know as blocktrades.us. And we got to talking about it, and the big elephant in the room was, what are we going to do about EOS? Because I go around talking to a lot of people in boardrooms and trying to talk people into using BitShares, and most of the time they're not smart enough to even know about EOS. But when they are, they do ask this question. Well, I understand that BitShares would meet my needs, but what about EOS? I mean, isn't that going to kind of take over for BitShares? And I say, no, you don't need that. You don't have that as a problem. If you're going to do smart contracts, if you're going to do a lot of other things, but BitShares is highly optimized. It's got all the capability that you could ever possibly want. And they still say, I don't know, you know, they get this little fear of missing out that maybe they're making the wrong type of decision. And so the gang of old timers sat around and said, we got to do something about this perception. What are we going to do? We're going to maybe get behind an idea of putting a version of BitShares onto EOS. Are we going to do something where maybe we upgrade BitShares to EOS technology? What are we going to do? And we decided, well, it already runs pretty nice, and pretty good consensus within the group that we don't need to cobble BitShares up by sticking it up on top of something more general. It's already highly optimized for what it does. And I'm not sure we could get this community to agree on any kind of a major surgery. Look at all the things that are being done right now with the BitShares platform. One of the lessons we certainly learned from going from BitShares 1 to BitShares 2 is you don't pull the rug out from under a lot of other people who are building on it. So it's almost a given you should leave the BitShares blockchain alone. So where does that put us? Well, we came up with the idea of a middle chain. It's been talked about. We decided we would actually invest and go build one. The purpose of this middle chain is 3 different reasons. One of them is we would like to be able to interface to the EOS world, be able to export our products and services out across that vast new continent of opportunity. And we'd like to be able to import cool things that are happening there into trade on our DEX very naturally. We'd also like to import technology. Whenever Dan Larimer stands up and says, ha, I've got this new idea, and everybody says, oh, gee, I wish we had that. Well, we're going to have that, all right, because we're going to create a middle chain interfaced to the current system that will allow us to automatically import anything that they do over there at Block 1 with their multi-billion-dollar R&D budget. And in fact, I like to kid Dan a little bit and say, we realize, guys, that Block 1 is just the BitShares laboratories. And that's the way I tend to look at it. Whatever they do, of course, Dan passionately believes should be shared, open source, across the community, and what better place to share it than with his first baby. So that's what we've set out to do, and we've picked the 5th of November as the date that we are going to launch the very first block of this middle chain that will provide, in addition to the functions I just described, one more thing, which is a whole new value added that I call jurisdictional agility. What jurisdictional agility is, right now most blockchains are designed to be spread out over the whole world. They sit in every jurisdiction, That's kind of a strength, because if some particular government wants to make trouble, you just heal around it and the rest of the system goes on. Everybody does it that way. But have you ever thought about the idea of being able to guarantee that a transaction that you want to have in a smart contract or whatever will execute in a specific jurisdiction that you can be confident of, so you as a business wanting to ride on this can be able to say, I'm not worried about 250 different jurisdictions out there being compliant with them all. I'm going to pick one and be totally compliant there, and I'm going to ensure that every single thing I do is going to execute inside that jurisdiction. And one little simple example of that is what we've done with Quintry. That's our gold-backed legal tender that is located in a depository in Salt Lake City, Utah, where Utah has very excellent laws that allow you to do things with gold and silver being legal tender. And if you do it that way, compliant with US law, and if every transaction occurs inside Utah, guess what? What happens in Utah stays in Utah legally. What if we could do that for everybody on a new blockchain that has smart contracts, where we could guarantee those smart contracts happen in Malta or Utah, Wyoming, Ireland, where we have a new depository we'll be opening up. You pick your favorite jurisdiction where you would like it to execute, and that may slow it down a little bit. If there's only one node running in that jurisdiction, it may have to hop around through 21 nodes before it comes up with something that matches the jurisdiction you've specified in your smart contract. But it'll execute then reliably in that location. And then in the ultimate vision, we can start thinking about providing jurisdictions like in international waters, putting a node on a cruise ship that, every time it goes out into international waters and the casinos open up, hey, so does the node that's able to execute those things. And ultimately, putting it on a satellite in space where it's an international jurisdiction there. I looked into the laws of international space. It's mostly you shouldn't put nukes in space, things like that. They don't really talk too much about other things, so what a wonderful place to go ahead and put this type of blockchain. So that is what we are envisioning to address what to do about EOS. Let's use its strength to do something that hasn't been done before, that EOS itself isn't trying to do. It's trying to be very general. Why not pick out a big, new, wonderful, brave new world of possibilities and see what we can do about that? So we're going to launch this blockchain and going to do it on the 5th of November. And here's the other thing. It's going to be an airdrop on you guys. Okay? I'm sick and tired. Remember who it was that first invented the concept of a social contract where you would airdrop on a coin? It was BitShares, right? So why are we dropping all of our coins on EOS? Okay? Well, there's been enough of that going on, and I think Dan would agree that since if you go look at the EOS library, there's an awful lot of BitShares code in EOS. Therefore, why can't we take some of that new innovation from EOS, bring it back to BitShares, and keep the ownership here in the community? So that's what we're out to do. And the way we're going to do it is to basically, remember what I said about the idea of making coins portable from BitShares projected out into the EOS universe, making it so that coins are platform independent. Any token on the BitShares network can move across onto EOS and then out into the rest of the world at the time. So we're going to make it entirely voluntary for people participating during the period of time that this will take place, from ideally November 5th, if we can pull it off, until a period of time that we want it to be an extended period of time, at least 3 months, maybe more. And during that time, we're going to do something called a raindrop. Now, airdrop happens all on one block, right? This idea is anybody that wants to collect some of this rainfall of free tokens, 100% of tokens are given out this way. Anyone who wants to collect it, all they have to do is move their BitShares onto the BitShares EOS platform. Don't have to give them up. You got them. You can take them back anytime you want. But as long as you're there supporting this new blockchain, you're receiving rainfall day in and day out of the new tokens. And so in theory, this can't happen because a lot of people are doing other things with their BitShares, like backing bit assets or whatever. But if everybody moved everything over to the new chain and did it on day one and allowed it to rain, everybody would get one of the new EOS tokens, BitEOS, for every BitShare that they have. Now, say half of you decided to do it and half of you decided that you don't. Well, then the half that moved over there to collect are the ones that are going to get 2 tokens. If only 10% of you move over, you'll get 10 tokens. So I'll let you decide whether you want to participate or not. But those tokens will be distributed on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis to whoever's got something, a catcher's mitt over there, to get them. So that, my friends, is what we're up to right now. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that there's actually 2 versions of this chain. Okay, one is the real one that I've been talking about, and the other one is a fictitious one. I'm not going to talk anymore about the real one because it's not safe to do so in my country anymore. In my country, the authorities are playing games of gotcha, where if somebody says something that can be interpreted as a false statement, they can amplify the charges on that up to the point where you could go to prison for 20 years for making a false statement, even if you immediately corrected it and said, oops, I misspoke. The attitude is, if you're a targeted individual, which is usually somebody that's doing good for the community and trying to innovate, then you're going to be singled out to have everybody watch every word you say in order to find something that they can say is a false statement. How do I protect myself from that? I talk about it, right? And I like to talk informally. Sooner or later, I'm going to say something that somebody's going to say is false, and then I'm in jeopardy. So my strategy for solving that problem is to create a fictitious version of this. I'm going to actually write a science fiction miniseries. This chart is science fiction. Everything I just told you today is fictional, and I'm going to be able to share with you all my hopes and dreams, things that I hope I can do, and things we might not be able to do, and things we might change our mind about, and times when I blow it and say the wrong thing on the record in an interview somewhere. You folks are going to have to take my science fiction ramblings and figure out what that means in terms of what happens in the real world, because I ain't going to talk about that with a 10-foot pole. Okay? So, it's a shame that it has to work that way, but unfortunately, as long as we live in the world we do, we've got to take those kind of things. One final point to make is that what to do about the reserve fund. Okay? I've already said that every BitShare that shows up over on the new network during the rainfall period is going to get some tokens. What do we do about the rainfall on the, what would it be, the reserve fund in BitShares? Well, we decided to do something that's kind of been hinted at today. I think Fabian was sort of pointing it out a little bit, is let's manage that differently. Instead of managing like we do on BitShares, pure democracy, a lot of voting, the drawback of that is it's hard to make decisions quickly. So how do we go about doing that? Why don't we have those tokens given to a board of trustees that's elected on a much longer cycle? Something like the SEC has a new member come on the board every year, and they rotate out in a 5-year term. So you have some stability and long-term roadmap planning and the ability to sign contracts and so on. So that's what we're going to do, and that particular thing will focus most importantly on defending the community. We want to be able to, in the instance anybody gets in trouble legally for not doing anything wrong other than being picked on, we want to get them a lawyer. And we want the trustees to have as their primary mission the ability to use those funds that are set aside there for doing that. Okay, everybody, you can see it, Steemit/@Stan, and over on the new BitShares thing. I'll be talking about this for the next weeks. And hopefully you can all learn everything about what's going on in my fictitious articles and read between the lines. Thanks.